Hello everybody, Hassan here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in this video, we're talking about Beam Therapeutics, all about their sickle cell disease program. A couple of updates we got a couple of days ago, rather 2 weeks ago, I believe, or a little bit over 1 week ago. And I want to talk about why this is so important for this CRISPR space. Now, before I jump into today's video, what a weekend, guys. I don't know if you guys are following the news. Bunch of things are happening. I don't want to cover the politics. This channel is not for politics. I'm not gonna go over any of those topics, not at all. But man, what a weekend! I mean, I was at Starbucks yesterday evening here in Toronto, in the city there, and I was scrolling through X and I saw that news come up. Which obviously, like I said, I'm not gonna bring up the specific topic, but if you know what's happening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And man, I saw this play out on real time. This was kind of insane what was happening here, and X and Reddit and all those platforms blew up. And man, what a weekend, guys. And speaking of the weekend, look at the sun here in Toronto. I don't know if you guys are in the northern hemisphere of North America. Some of you are specific regions there. Man, there's a heat wave going on here. It's like 31 32 degrees here. That's just like degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit, Celsius, but that's not the real temperature with humidity and everything. It's a lot more than that. So man, what a weekend, guys. Who would have thought that on this longest day of the year, which is 21st June, and the day after you'd have the craziest day or weekend of the year, right? I read a sentence here, and we'll jump into this video here right away, but I just want to say one sentence, and I read that on X. It said something like, there was a quote by someone here in history, and it was mentioned that there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And I think that this weekend and the last few weeks I would mention, I think that explains that sentence really well, that quote really well. So nonetheless, guys, enough with non-CRISPR talk. Let's jump right into the CRISPR talk here. So Yair here, of course, that's the thread we're looking at. Yair, amazing member of our community, posted a thread on Beam Therapeutics publishing promising data for their Beacon phase 1 phase 2 trial. I want to jump right into it, look at it. What does it mean for this space? So, and I quote here, Beam Therapeutics presented new promising data from Beacon phase 1 phase 2 trial of BEAM-101 sickle cell, which demonstrated rapid and robust fetal hemoglobin of more than 60%, a 40% reduction in sickle hemoglobin, no VOCs in sickle cell disease patients post-treatment. This was in their EHA 2025 conference. They published that. Like I said, it wasn't this past week. It was over a week ago. This was all published a while ago, actually. The cutoff date was actually 28th of February 2025. Again, that's normal. The cutoff date always happens a couple of months before releases as they review data and publish it. So we're not going to go into the description here of what the sickle cell is, how do you tackle it, and so on. Just know it's ex vivo. They are using ex vivo, but of course they're using their base editors technology. Okay, so Beam Therapeutics, that's their promise, the base editors technology, the Gen 2 CRISPR, as some people mention it. Over 35 patients to date have cleared screening and then enrolled in Beacon phase 1 phase 2 clinical trial, and 17 patients have been treated so far. All of sickle cell disease patients were treated with BEAM-101 achieved hemoglobin F levels of over 60% and a durable reduction of correspondence hemoglobin S below 40%. Okay, so 60-40, that seems to be the ratio that I remember in 2021, CRISPR Tommy on YouTube used to mention that a lot. That was basically the number you're looking at. If you can reduce that below 40% and exceed the hemoglobin F levels of over 60%, that's when you're basically tackling sickle cell disease for sure. It doesn't have to be those exact numbers, but that's basically what you want to aim for. And Casgevy obviously did that with their approved program, and obviously Beam is doing that right now. Okay, So data has been obviously right now we need to figure out the durability, because obviously BEAM-101 got in this space much later than Casgevy. So we take a look at here. There's one post here I want to talk about here, and this one, yeah. So and I quote here: the key question is whether BEAM-101 will be able to take the lead in saturated sickle cell market. Not to mention, it is way behind of Casgevy. Although Beam estimates that the potential sales of BEAM-101 could be as high as $3 to $4 billion annually, in my opinion, it remains unclear just how big its potential market share would be. So the idea of Beam, and they've mentioned this in the past in interviews and so on, is that they don't need to go through the robust process, or rather the lengthy process that Casgevy has to go through, enroll patients, to dose patients, and to potentially cure them. What BEAM-101 process is they're a best-in-class option for growing, established, severe sickle cell gene therapy market, which means basically they're going to come in, a high manufacturing process, a very efficient one. You go in, you treat the patient, and you move on, right? The whole idea of Beam is that they can go faster, a larger scale, and be more cost-effective than Casgevy. Now, in this channel, we've often said that there's space for more than just one sickle cell disease program. In fact, many researchers have said that. There are published papers about that. You can't have just Casgevy taking the whole sickle cell disease market. It's not happening. And I would argue BEAM-101 cannot be the only one. Although a lot of BEAM-101 supporters rather, they mentioned that BEAM-101 is just going to come in, take the whole market, and Casgevy is going to become out of date. I strongly disagree with that statement. I think there's a space for couple of players. I'm not saying there's going to be like 20 players in the CRISPR space with sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia, but there'll be more than one. And I think Casgevy is already in there. They're already enrolling patients. By next year, you're going to see significant commercial revenues coming in. This takes time. That's the whole negative side of Casgevy. The positive side is they have the first mover advantage. They've been there since 2023, end of 2023 approved. By the time BEAM-101 gets approved, maybe 2027, maybe with the FDA news, maybe it'll be a little bit sooner, who knows. They'll have a lot more market, right? So again, there's a time and place there. It's not as simple as just saying Beam's going to come in and take the whole market, but of course this is promising. I think Beam is doing everything correct here. I've said it many years ago. I remember in 2021, I was a supporter of base editors. I understood the technology. I understood the company, but I always want to see human data. I have always said this in this channel. Human data is what I review. That's what that's what I basically base my thesis on. Although you still have to look at preclinical trials, because again, if you miss those preclinical trials, if you always wait for human data, you may miss the wave. But at the same time, at the time, sickle cell disease, you had amazing data from Casgevy. At the time, it wasn't called that, but from Vertex and CRISPR Therapeutics, and it just didn't make sense to me to get all my eggs in one basket for Beam, which didn't have human data in 2020, 2021. But they clearly do now. Now, it's just a matter of timing now. So I think this is great for this space. I think it's great for Beam Therapeutics. It's great for patients having more options. Of course, you want that. And of course, like I mentioned, researchers have mentioned this. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, look at my video catalog. I mentioned this. This is a couple of years ago I tackled that, but you need more than just one player for the sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia space. It is a rare disease, but you have so many thousands of patients, not just in the US, but around the world. And there's no way Casgevy can tackle that alone. And I would argue there's no way one company can tackle that alone, regardless of their technology, at least for the foreseeable future. Maybe in 30, 40, 50 years, that thesis changes. But for where we are right now with the regulatory bodies, with the way this is structured, and the data that we've seen and the time and place we're in, there's no way you can only have one player that takes the whole market. I think this is going to be split. I think it's a big win for every player in this space. It's a big win for Casgevy, I would argue, because clearly you can tell CRISPR is working. Now, obviously, they're not using the same technology. But you guys got to remember, the FDA is not looking specifically at Beam Therapeutics to like, okay, well, base editors are the future. We forget about Cas9 ex vivo from CRISPR Therapeutics. That's not how they work. That's not how they should work. That's not the precedence they want to put it as well, because then anything that they approve becomes disregarded, right? You can't do that. And again, we're just talking about the FDA. There's other regulatory bodies, and you got to remember their relationships form, their communications form. There's years of development for Cas9 and government officials. Guys, got to think about this big picture, guys. So I wanted to cover here in this video the Beam Therapeutics news. We didn't cover it, and I thought to myself, you know what, it's time for a Beam editors video, base editors video rather. Great news for the company, great news for the CRISPR landscape. And again, thank you so much here for this. Lots of things happening in the CRISPR landscape, guys. Technology is what matters. I look at human data. We got human data. This is amazing data, and we'll see where we go from there. I'm very excited for this CRISPR space, guys. I just cannot be more excited than what I am today with everything that's happened. The video I made yesterday about expediting CRISPR programs. I'm just so excited. Are you excited, guys? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video, guys. Pushes our videos on people's homepage. Let me know again in the YouTube comments. Let's engage here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a beautiful Sunday, and hopefully you stay away from the heat wave. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll see each other soon.